Got a little soul speak on the ascension that we all share. This unveiling, this apocalypse. You know, all this discussion of what is reality, conspiracy, heresy, truth that's stranger than fiction. Doesn't get any better than this. It's not just time to bring on the apocalypse, it's time to start riding it. It's not going to hurt us. Because one thing's for sure, in our conscious mind and even in our subconscious, if that's what you want to call it, we have always survived. And the reason for that is because we never die. So when it comes to ascension, what else is there to talk about? This ascension, unveiling, is not complicated. It's just a microcosm of the state of our being from any point, from this present moment to any point in our past. And in regard to the past, now we can look back to see, to awaken without the element of linear time. Yeah. Because the wisdom still comes, because the universe is never late. That means we can take from our past the powerful wisdom of the eternal moments, seen when we unveil the hurts and the blame given and received. You know, we've reached a point where forgiveness will cease to exist. Because perfection did not create forgiveness, but as a path to a higher perfection, a new reflection of itself, of ourselves. Yeah, it's true. It's just not necessary forgiveness, and neither is earth love. So we can stop chasing both right now and all the false securities and failed searches that go with the lofty goals of a moral world. Both the things that they put beyond our reach and the reasons they gave us for not being able to reach them. It's time to re-enter the fold of the immortal, the fold of the I Am soul.
Hey, Todd, I'm not sure if I can hear you. Yeah, I'm not hearing you. It's testing. Let's see if you guys can hear me. Okay, so Todd, if you're hearing this.
Oh, no, it was on my end. Yeah, it was on my end.
Okay, there you go. I think we're both online now.
Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure we're good. Okay, yes, I can hear you, Brian, just not Todd. Okay, yeah. Right on. So, you know, anytime we have technical difficulties, we always have a great show. It seems like we have more and more technical difficulties as time goes on. So what's happening, brother? How you doing? Thank you for coming. I'm excited
Thank
to
you
sit
for
down.
having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to sit down and talk about things with you. I got a couple of things on my mind. I know you do. You always do.
Always, always. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to come together with you, my man, and share
Yeah.
this space in the name of supporting anyone that may be tuning in.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's where it's at to me. It's having these conversations, whether they're here or somewhere else, or two or more people, offline, just talking about, what your experience is, what expressions you have, you
It's
know.
just a good time. That's how
Mhm.
I see it. I
Yeah.
first and foremost, I like to approach it with the intention of just joining you and having a good time, having a good conversation. And I think when I do that, the sort of thing that unfolds tends to be one that benefits not just the two of us having the conversation, but I think again, first and foremost, it's about enjoying ourselves in this moment.
That's very true. Yeah, it's weird because I think that's the right word. It's strange. These what it's been what 7 weeks in 2020, and it's really strange because everything is different. It's almost unfamiliar, and some really it seems to me, within my own journey and the journey I share with my wife and the work I do, observing people as mirrors of me, that everything's different. It's
How
what
so?
well, like where we came from seems to be almost unfamiliar now. Like
Mm.
things that we engaged in just don't even, it's like the universal energy isn't supporting it anymore. The distortion and distraction. And then the things that we're walking into seem unfamiliar, but they're good, and then I see a lot of people going deep, specifically some people that have been out there leading the way for a long time, and kind of, doing forecast and channeling and transmitting and downloading and sharing this stuff. And almost what I'm seeing is there's, obviously there's been a part of the journey has been to detach from the traumatic experiences many of us had, particularly in my age group, or maybe the one right behind me. You're about three behind me. Uh, but but detaching from the over identification of the higher multidimensional connections, and bringing it back down to the human and embodying it. It's like it's almost like it's not the things that we identify with so much that bring us closer to the light or closer to wholeness. It's the things that we don't identify with that when we bring them in our heart actually bring us closer, because we can't divorce ourselves from any aspect of the universe. We either accept it or we don't. So, on one hand, the traumas that we had created separation. Like, say, I was a victim, the victimizer, I don't see as myself. Or say it was, some strong, powerful galactic connection or angelic connection or whatever that I over identified with, that kind of brought me to the party, that I had to kind of embody and let go of it as being unique to me or making me different from anyone else. It's like, I find the most expanding things are the things that make me uncomfortable, the people that make me uncomfortable, the situations that make me uncomfortable, that I just bring into my heart, bring into my heart, bring into my heart. And it's not always instantaneous. In fact, most of the time it's not. But if I can continue to do that and see them as me, or see the situation as God's substance, it's the same thing I'm made of. It tends to elevate me into an expanded state of awareness, just to discover new
Mm.
shadow or more shadow. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like it's both the peeling away the identification, but at the same time, it's integrating more of what you are. And those two things seem like on the surface they are two different things, but
Yeah.
I think they're ultimately intertwined, right? You're peeling away the that those layers of feeling attached or identified to something, to allow for a more full expression of who you are, of your divinity, to just naturally emerge through. But even that, like, I think we that are consciously on this path, consciously seeking spiritual growth, can come to get a little bit attached to and identified with some of the higher dimensional stuff. And like you said, I think one of the things that a lot of us are being called to these days especially is grounding that into the human. It can't be one without the other. I think it's important that we see that they're both ultimately intertwined.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I mean, on one hand, like I'll just use myself as an example. I came to the party with certain divine essences or consciousnesses that, people talk about Christ consciousness or Magdalene or different ascended masters or different star family representations that bring them in to the party, like helped you to kind of say, okay, I'm not just human, I'm actually an eternal soul, or I'm part of this universal family or whatever it is. But as time goes on, they start to embody it. And, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. It kind of, got us to a certain point, but it's almost like we're left alone now. It's like we're getting kicked out of the bird's nest, so to speak, and we've got to fly on our own. It's like we've got enough information given to us, and there's enough given to us personally and also with shared stories. There's enough code activated, however you want to put it. But it's like, okay, you're on your own now, and not in a bad way, but like, what do we do with this information, knowledge, skills, and abilities? What do we do with this now?
That's, yeah, it brings me to another interesting paradox, and it's, we're receiving support and guidance, right? And we're always being told to open up to that and receive that, enter a state of receiving. But at the same time, it, as you've described, doesn't really serve us to become reliant on that, right? And we have to step into our own power as individuals, even, and at a certain point and in certain ways, always looking for some guidance that, quote unquote, comes from outside of you. That doesn't serve you. So again, I think it's about bringing together the two ends of the paradox, and it's receiving that support, but then of course again applying it as an individual in your own experience. Again, one of the things that I've been coming to a lot lately, and it seems like you have been as well, is we are expanding into a state of oneness with everything, but in order for us to do that truly, we have to play that individual role powerfully as well. We have to play that human role powerfully. So again, it's interesting to see all these different paradoxes come up, and it's important that we're able to embrace it. But I totally agree with you, where we're coming to a point where it's about application of the wisdom, and playing that part. In some ways, we have to be the ones responsible for doing that without necessarily looking for outside help, but at the same time, being open to support and guidance of others is important as well.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because, I like to lay down at night. My wife and I put our hands together and then we just see what happens. And for so long, different things would appear, third eye and physical eyes, and give us information and then merge with us. And I guess we would embody that part of it. And now I lay down and, I kind of lay down. I'm like, okay, who am I talking to? Who am I expecting? You know what I mean? It's all me.
Do you still feel like embodied though, like, or does it feel like a disconnect? Because I've had I've had both of those. Okay, I'll speak to quickly. Sometimes it does feel like a little bit of a disconnect. Have you ever had that?
Yeah. It's we were just talking about that last night. Like, and it seems like something will happen and then it'll kind of get turned off, or it won't be as frequent or as constant. So I guess there's like an ebb and flow to it. I can think of the last one that I had, which was maybe a week and a half ago, and I actually saw, she did too, but I mean, I remember actually seeing the apparition of like a dragon, a white dragon, just fly in, and and then immediately it went into me, uh, and I knew in that moment that I basically heard the words, "You are the dragon. You are this particular essence." And so and I think this is not just happening obviously to us, but it's happening to a lot of people. In fact, we've actually received that information from the you, me, we, and it in just the last few days, that there's many people that are stepping into a higher frequency, and in that higher frequency, it's a totally different ball game. I'll give you another example. I remember saying to Morgan maybe a month ago, as we were elevating, you know, every other night or whatever the case was. And I said, because it was a big one. And I said, you know what? I think we're really going to start seeing some stuff in the room at night, like more than ever, like maybe even like physical matter, rather than just kind of an apparition that's translucent or whatever. And she said, no, I don't think so. I think we are it now. And I went, wow, that's it. We're actually all of those things in the flesh, but with all the non-physical, let's just say the non-physical etheric skills, abilities, awareness, power, and all that stuff, accessibility, but actually in the physical flesh. And I feel like that's something that's kind of hard to explain, but I think that's the trajectory we're on.
So you feel like it's going to be those sort of experiences are going to be occurring less?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is we're going to be walking around and we're going to see, and I'm saying this is my opinion or an example to try to explain it, but I think we're going to be walking around, excuse me, and you're going to see somebody's aura, and more than one person's going to see it, or you're going to see, we're already seeing and hearing about and reading about evidence of healing, instantaneous healing, incredible transformations. I mean, I can think of a couple of things right off the top of my head of people who went in and had pretty severe medical issues, such as, I mean, something that was going to physically take them out. And within, a short period of time, the doctors are like going, I don't know what happened. Their explanation is something was inside of me that needed to be released. I worked on that, it released, and spiritually I aligned, and then my body followed suit. So I think things like that are going to start to be more and more. People are going to be more and more exposed and aware of it. And I think the other thing that's
Kind of
going to.
getting cut off here on my end.
Oh, are you? Is it your end?
Not
Did I
sure
lose you?
Okay, no, I think we're
Yeah,
back
yeah,
online.
yeah. You're good. Well, I think the other thing that's going to happen, if you didn't hear that, I think is with these young children. These young children that are coming in are not encumbered. They're not carrying, any type of karma. They're clean, and they're, I'm talking, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. They're having huge impacts on their families, and it won't be long before that starts to permeate out into the greater collective.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole different type of experience, I think, and I don't think there's any real telling of what it's going to look like. It's going to come with all kinds of different types of lessons. I don't think the sort of lessons and experiences that these generations have been coming in for is going to at all relate to what it's going to look like as the veil starts to kind of dissolve more and more.
I just choked on a peppermint.
Oh man, a peppermint, like
Yeah,
a mint candy.
I was eating a peppermint. Anyway, no, I hear what you're saying. I
Have
hear
you
what you're
been
saying.
around children at all?
Yeah,
Like I don't have many at all in my life, but so you're getting the chance to see that.
Yeah, actually, the last example I saw was Natasha and Ryan Weeks have it's not even 3 years old. I think he'll be 3 years old pretty soon. His name is Ocean. And well, the story is, and I've told it before, but I'll tell it real quick so you'll know. They were together for a while, I think 2, 3 years or something. They had the same type of synergy that you and your partner have. And she ended up getting pregnant, and it wasn't planned. And so immediately, while the baby's in the womb, starts communicating with her. Now they have traditional jobs. They've got a boat and traditional kind of a thing going on. And Ocean from the womb starts talking to her and continues when he gets out and says, "Hey, I'm not going to school. I'm not going to be part of this illusion and matrix. uh, and this is kind of speeding it up and putting it in this short
Mm.
story. But sell your stuff, sell the boat. Um, we're gonna, get a truck with a camper on it, and we're gonna start traveling, and that's what they're doing. So I came to St. Pete Beach,
They
and
acted on it already.
yeah, you know what I mean. And
Wow.
so like I came to St. Pete Beach, and she's like, "Hey, we're in the area. We're gonna come by." And so we got to spend a little bit of time together for about a day and a half, and I got to see that energy and and also hear the stories that they both told me. And basically, kind of just to sum it up, their day is spent in the present moment, looking, uh, following the direction and guidance they're getting of where to go. They're not, they don't have like a consistent stream of income. They're really, putting it into an
Full
action into
blown surrender.
yeah, full blown surrender. And the kid, Ocean, as she told me, she said, we're still going through it. We still like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How are we going to eat? Things like that. And he'll just say to her, telepathically, he'll just say, let's go to the playground. And over again, he's telling her, let's play. Don't
Mm.
forget to play. Why are you worrying? That frequency is going to attract those types of frequencies to it. Let's stay in a playful mode and imagination, intuition, creation, creative energies, and let's stay in that mode because that's what we'll attract. So yeah, and that's one. We've talked to two or three older ones, little older ones on the show, but yeah, and I've heard other people talking about that. In fact, my daughter lives here, and I went to see her, and she has the first grandchild I've ever had with 6 kids, and he's about 3 months old. And one night she went to work, and I changing his diaper, which I hadn't done in years and never thought I would again. And this kid starts downloading to me, "Hey, we had a life on another planet. I have a message for my mom." So yeah, I think this part of what's happening is really going to be spearheaded. This stuff that's out of the mainstream, what our communities represent and what the people that are here represent and create together, has been off the mainstream, off the alt news, off everything. It's just little pockets like this. But I think these kids are carrying an energy that are just going to bulldoze right through it. It's not going to
Hmm.
be done. It won't be denied.
They're gonna pick up the pace. I think we think we're
Yeah.
accelerating. I think the next wave is gonna kick it up a whole nother level. Actually,
Yeah.
we kind of want to come back to that message that Ocean brought through, because I feel calling to just get more a little more practical and bring to the table something that people can use. And it's that beautiful message of let's let's play, and let's feel into that feeling of being free, being playful. Something I've been, well, trying to cultivate more and more in of myself, but definitely I think is something that is it's important for us to speak to and come into. And it's that, again, feeling of freedom and trusting that we can do that, right? So I think what's holding, well, of course, what's holding people back from that is fear. um what comes to mind for you when you consider the way in which we hold ourselves back from that sort of experience?
Oh, well, I think that first of all, I think that the energies, the collective energies, are moving. They're moving. The magnetics are reversed. Whatever the case is, however you want to explain it, it's happening. The collective ascension is occurring. The collective cycle is continuing. So, if we want to play in the old energies, it's going to become harder and harder to do. It's either going to get real loud in our face, or it just won't stick, you know. So I think that's kind of an inevitability that is constant and a given now. As far
You
as
don't think that one will still be able to make that choice to be there?
I think they can for a period of time. I think everybody's different, and I'm again, this is just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I can only look at my own situation, my wife's situation, some people that I've observed, that I interact with, and it's just there's a lot of doors closing. It's like when okay, let me put it this way: if you step into, and I really hate to put any kind of labels on anything, but let's say you step into a more free frequency or a 5D for let's just call it a 5D frequency. Once you step into it, you can't go back. You can
Mm-hmm.
go back, but you're going to be, you've already hit, kind of like when you cross a line, it's easier to cross it the next time. It's almost like it just kind of shuts the door. Once you get exposed to it, once you wake up, you can't go to sleep, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of pattern continues, but I was listening to Franco De Nicola last night. He's doing a series on what's occurring. He's got great intel, probably the best forecasting intel I've ever heard. And he was talking about how the inverted matrix was shut off. The projection of the distorted 3D was shut off in December. And he said, so that's no longer supporting the ego, but the program still runs within the ego within all of us. But because the ego is not being supported by the old distorted projection, the only way it can kind of exist or thrive or live or whatever is by engaging other egos at that same level. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I mean, it's such a just a myriad of different aspects and points and considerations that, like you said, it's pretty hard to put this stuff into words. I think.
Yeah. And then I think, speaking to what might be happening, I guess what's kind of making sense to me is we can only really speak to our own personal experience, right? We can't say what's going to happen for other people. We can't say what is happening for other people. So, I mean, is there really any use in thinking about that? And is there really even any use in thinking about, oh, is it inevitable or not? I don't think so. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. What we do know is we experience the we experience free will. We experience the the ability to choose the better feeling, the ability to enhance and elevate our state of consciousness. So what we as individuals should of course aim to do, and um, the very same to what we should be sharing with others is, in your experience you have that choice to make. And
Mm.
um, I guess you're not going to sit back and say it's inevitable. There's no work for me to be done.
No,
It's still a
no.
practice of
Mm-mm.
presence and being conscious. So that's
Yeah.
ultimately what it comes down to, right?
I'd say bingo to that. Bingo. And yeah,
It's
I
so.
think it, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny how the more you you move forward, the more you realize how simple it really is, and it's
Yeah.
almost like I feel like I'll reach a point one day where I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And in some of the conversations over the last few weeks, we were a little bit sporadic there, but now we're online till the end of March. But over the last 10 or 12 episodes, that has come out from the people that have come on is, the words are kind of going away. It's like, what can you say? It's not really even, it's very natural. Although it may be unfamiliar to us because of where we've been, it's a very natural kind of thing. And we're kind of getting used to this unfamiliarity, which is an old familiarity, but it's doesn't require words. And we've talked a lot about telepathy recently, people saying, like I was saying, do I tell this person what I know? Meaning like, we're not really being direct with each other, or maybe I'm not being direct with you and don't know it, or you're not being direct with me for my opinion. Do I need to say something? I mean, it creates a whole, bunch of different things that we really haven't had to deal with before. I think that kind of jumps out. But yeah, I think you're right. I think we don't really know what's going to happen. We don't really know how it's going to unfold. So for instance, I look at this stuff that's going on, not in without picking a side or anything like that. But you could pick a lot of different subjects. But you could say QAnon, Trump. You could say Bernie Sanders. You could say coronavirus. You could say, Illuminati. You could say a lot of different things. And watching a lot of this old looping programming playing out, such as say false flags. False flags 3, 4, 5 years ago had much more impact on the collective than they do now. Now they're gone in a blink of an eye, and no one even pays any attention to it. Kobe Bryant's passing. There was a lot of, to me, on YouTube, a lot of videos made that really weren't about Kobe. They were about the person making them, and so
Mm.
that whole attachment to death and sadness and so on didn't stick like it used to stick. So I think that watching this stuff is very interesting to me. But what it keeps driving home to me is like what I said at the top of the show, is that to me, it's like, it's not the things that I identify with so easily, like Jesus, or, or whatever star family I feel aligned with, or playing basketball, or whatever the case is, or poetry. It's the things that I don't identify with that will bring me closer to the 0 point. And I think you brought up
Mm.
polarities a minute ago. And I think that's a big part of it, because we attach to one side, or over identify to one side, and we separate ourselves from the other side. And bottom line is, nobody's causing separation. The separation exists from here, you know from
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
And that's the real work, is in just taking it all in as thyself.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Because I think everybody wants, deep inside, beneath the shadows, in the purity of the soul, wants to contribute to the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond the protests, marches, boycotts, beyond all that stuff, there's just, we can do that. We can do that without ever saying a word, or we're saying a million words, without talking to anybody, or we're talking to a million people. We can do that by the energy that's transformed within us, because that's the new dimension, I guess. Is just basic. It's all energy. It always has
That's how we
been.
contribute.
Yeah, because
So
people
then
pick
that
up on
comes
it.
back, exactly. And the more and more it's more about that than what's happening on the surface. And it just brings us back to the point that, you know, start with the feeling, start with play. How it's been my I think it's been my big message lately, and it's you're in control. This is your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Create whatever it is that you wish to. In a soul-centered place, it's going to be one of serving others. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
Serving the all, but ultimately, take the pressure off of feeling like something needs to happen, or taking it
Right.
so seriously. And I've been one, definitely in the past, that was trying to save the world. We
Mm-hmm.
need to we need to shift the planet's state of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, and I am still all for that, but it's coming from, again, more of a, this is a fun thing to do, opposed to it being this you know, situation of, this is, I it's hard to speak to, because at the same time I think it's very important. I also want to make mention that I think it can be a great experience to draw from that energy of it being meaningful, important, um, and something, yeah, of significance, right? But
Yeah.
can we make it both? Can we both invigorate ourselves with that sense of passion? That's the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
That sense of passion that comes from, this is meaningful, this is important, and I'm going to serve this purpose. Um, but at the same time, maintain the awareness that it's all for fun, man.
Yes. Yeah. I think, yes, I think you're right. I actually, I know you're right. And I think that's, okay, so that's kind of, yeah, that's a good kind of a basis to kind of, for me to kind of describe where I feel we're at, which is we're at a place where we've had enough information come in. We've done enough work, or enough of us, or whatever, however you want to put that. And so we're in this space now where we're actually saying, okay, I can't die. I'm not, that's not even a word. There is a cycle that seems to be like birth, rebirth, that type of thing, like the seasons. And so now, you know, what do we do with this? And I think, to your point, it's like, have some fun. What's your passion? Who do you like to be with? What do you want to do? What do you want to create, co-create, collaborate on? And I do feel, at least in my own sphere of existence, that there is uh, a much greater and more obvious universal energy. You can call it the invisible hand of providence, whatever you want to call it, that's moving people together, and bringing situations together, co-creation opportunities, collaboration opportunities, two people meeting each other, whatever it is that's supporting that, uh, in a big way. And I think that it's moving so fast. And to your point earlier, that's a big part of the reason we have no idea how this is going to go down. But
Hmm.
it is going to be more fun as time goes on, because we're going to be more aware, and we're going to be more comfortable with the power of our divinity. But because it's moving so fast at a quantum level, you and I could be talking in a month and having the same topical conversation, and it not even be in the same stratosphere. You know what I mean? It wouldn't even be at the same level, because everything has moved up, and we have a higher state of awareness, and everything that goes with that.
Yeah, the awareness and the perspective from which you see it from is going to be a totally different space. But then I guess, at the same time, I don't know if there's going to be a difference in how we speak to it, because it's like you mentioned, it's kind of going beyond words at this point, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
So you
that's
we're
true.
bringing we're growing in an awareness that goes beyond words, and as we do, it becomes more about the energy, more about the feeling, more about the fun than this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, and we're seeing a lot of examples of that. We had Vera Ingeborg on yesterday. Her and her partner Augusti Sala are from Europe, and they first went to Brazil. I mean, these people had material stuff. They got rid of it. Then they went to Brazil. You know, things weren't in total alignment. They came back. They went up to the mountains. They came. Now they're in Colorado, and they're hanging out with three other people in a co-creative, collaborative type of environment on a
Mm,
small scale, at least by human terms. But the energy from something like that is very, very powerful. But I guess what I'm saying is, there's not a whole lot of talking. It's just going with the knowing. And like,
mm,
even as a microcosmic example, she says, like, in the environment of the community of these five people at this point, there's no talk about who's going to vacuum and who's going to do the dishes, and it just gets done. Everybody just fills in where they need to fill in, or where they're moved to fill in. So I think this is kind of a weak description coming from me. Someone could probably do better of the energy itself of community, of, as
Mhm.
she put it yesterday, there's one big organism, and there's all these little cells inside. And as my wife puts it, if in the body you have a cell, that cell has a function. It doesn't worry about what the other cells think about it, and it doesn't spend time thinking about the other cells. It
It's
just
just
does
doing its job,
it does its part. Yeah.
and it's
For the
doing
body.
it naturally,
Yeah.
effortlessly. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no. Um, there's no having to figure it out. It's kind of just what's naturally emerging through that cell, and then
Yeah.
it's that cohesiveness, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
see that's ultimately what we're gonna see more and more of. So I know you're saying that you're seeing that in a group of individuals of 5, but I think even in the larger human structures, we'll call it, you'll start to see that playing out as well. And that's
Yeah.
personally actually where I have my attention. I love to think about, and um, like my space is, what are the initiatives going to look like um, at that bigger scale as well? Because I know for me, the game I want to play is one in which I'm, at least right now, maybe this gets dissolved as well, but is the bigger um, projects kind of approach. So it's, I think it's something really powerful and beautiful, and that we're talking about how more and more people are just going to kind of settle into these roles
Yeah.
um, of their highest, most authentic expression of self, and what's going to come from that is going to be these amazing collaborations and co-creations.
Yeah. 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 Well, people talk about, I can't do anything that hurts my soul anymore. And then the flip side of that is what you talked about with the passion. It's like, what makes your heart sing. It's like, what you want to do because you're in alignment with what you want to do. And more people, I mean, yeah, I guess I have to use those terms, but more the energies prevailing of people, to thine own self be true, going with their gut, quitting their job and saying, I'm going to be an artist, or like Natasha and Ryan and Ocean, just
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, we're going to go do this. Doesn't make any sense. Somebody asked us yesterday, we're going to be here till March 31st. What are you going to do after that? We said, well, as of now, we're going to go to, XYZ, but we really don't know. We just don't know. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a lot of people that are beginning to live this type of lifestyle. And I just give you an example, not for any other purpose or attention, but I can just tell you, this is the kind of it's not just us, Morgan and I. It's many other people like Vera and Augusti, Ryan and Natasha and Ocean. But I can, like I walked to the store 2 nights ago, and probably had $30 in PayPal, and need to get some milk and maybe a piece of chocolate or something. I don't remember, but there was no fear, there was nothing. Now a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months ago, this was an ordeal. This was an evolving conflict, where not conflict but a challenge or imbalance. um, but the level of faith, I guess, or trust, or whatever you want to call it, is becoming more and more a part of the energetic field, which isn't just limited to us. It's out there, it's
Mm-hmm.
available. and
Mm-hmm.
and there's a powerful mechanism in place, I guess, when we surrender to it, because we're starting to get, all of us starting to get, almost like an instant manifestation, an instant reciprocation from the universe, from
Mm-hmm.
the field.
And with that, like, we only will, I think we might only see in front of us what is necessary for that manifestation. So if we don't need a whole lot of money for anything that is in alignment of that moment, what purpose does it have being there? So it's difficult because, moving into that sense of trust and surrender is a process of peeling away and dissolving that fear. Something else that I just kind of feel like needs to be said is we're speaking to this happening more and more, and especially with people in these types of circles and communities, right, that are actively pursuing spiritual evolution and growth and are exposed to some of these ideas. But the masses are still far from quitting that unfulfilling job and diving into their passion. So I think you become in tune with that gradually, but I think it's also important for us to mention that we're still living in a world where a lot of people are yet to make that choice or start to move that into that choice. And again, coming back to the reason why I feel like that's the case is because releasing that fear is a process in itself. But I guess that's important to know, because then it's something you can chip away at. Someone might hear, oh, you describing your situation, and it can sound like a careless thing to do, but the reason why you can be in the place that you are and feel the way that you feel is because I'm sure over time you've had to kind of resolve yourself of anything that kept you from trusting and surrendering.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, and I think everybody's journey is the same, proportionate to their life experience. I mean, it's all the same. We're talking energy. I can tell you, and I observed it in Natasha last week. They took off. They stopped by and visited for a day, and then they took off, and they couldn't. It was almost like Joseph and Mary trying to find a room at the inn. They couldn't find anywhere to go. Everything, they were hitting blocks and blocks. And she sent me a note. I don't think she'd mind me telling you this, but she sent me a note and said,
Keep in
"What the
mind, it's
hell?"
not just me, but 59 others.
Right. But she's like, this isn't. It wasn't bad. She just like this. She kind of had a mini meltdown in the morning, and then she wrote me later in the day, and she said, "Oh, that was, it's come and gone." But I guess what I'm saying is that, so these folks doing this kind of stuff are still going through certain things, still susceptible to certain things. It's not all peaches and cream all the time. It's being evolved and created and redefined, and it is in an energetic template that, as each person or soul or couples or whatever groups create it, it becomes available to the greater collective. And I think that's what's happening. I think all the templates and blueprints have been given to everybody, or maybe not all the ones to the same people, but they've been downloaded and transmitted and channeled. And, and I think those were like, already established. Now we're expanding that. And I think that's what's happening. But yeah, there are other people. I mean, there are, like, you've said it, a lot of other people said, there's a lot of people that aren't on board with that. But based on the information that Morgan and I have received in our own communion, nightly communion, there's a lot of people out there that are doing this, and even people that I've met on the road. Like we had a gathering a couple of weeks ago here, and I met some people that you never hear about. You'd never see them on Facebook. They're almost invisible, but they got it. They got it. I mean, especially women. A lot of women are really coming into their power now and starting to open up that throat chakra.
Actually hearing you just say that, I just clued into, we should bring our awareness to that it's happening, to that people are making these choices and the collective is moving in this direction. So I don't think I really, now that I consider it, I don't know if it really serves me to consider this idea that, oh, the masses that haven't, like I've said, haven't yet gotten to that point. I see importance in bringing our awareness to the frequency, the feeling, the experience that we want to see unfold. And like you said, I definitely agree that, you know, it's happening. I'm seeing it quite a bit. And more, I think it's going to be the norm, right? People choosing to live in the present moment. Actually, you know what? I'm curious. This is something I've been giving some thought to quite a bit lately, and I want to hear you speak to it. Talk to me about the role and way that time plays into your life.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not always easy for me to know what time it is. Having shows scheduled helps. A lot of times I don't know what day it is. Sometimes I don't know what month it is. I literally have to sit there for 10 or 15 seconds and say, okay, even like, where am I, kind of thing. It's time and space, maybe. I don't know. But time is not time has, I guess, in terms of like, I want to see Soulogy expand, and I want to achieve this. And, I've run Soulogy on 3 loans for the last year and a half. And, I want to pay this off and things like that. The time constraint and the pressure of time, of linear time, has been slowly slipping away. And over the last few weeks, and I don't think I'm the only one, it's becoming a very minor player. It really is. It's becoming a very minor player. It's certainly in comparison to what it used to be. But yeah, it's more of like well, it's more of like cycles or season, you know. So I get up, the sun comes up. There's no specific routine, necessarily, but yeah, it's one of those things I was referring to earlier. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit weird, but yeah, I can say honestly that the impact that it used to have on all of us, I'm sure it's a lesson for all of us, but yeah, it's not there. It's really
Mm-hmm.
not.
It's loosening, or we're loosening the chains of the concept of time that it has had on us. And it's actually an intention that I've had, just kind of not letting it be, letting it be so, not being a slave to it, not being a slave to the calendar, to the schedule,
Yeah.
not even using time, or in the context where, it's appropriate, but not using time as the the decision making factor, right?
Yeah.
Not letting it be, not doing something because of what time it is.
Yeah.
So it's actually interesting because I'm seeing that intention has been supporting me in being, of course, more present and operating at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
But then it's like I'm trying to rid the place that time has played in my life, and in that it's almost difficult to navigate the matrix, being that these things still have a part to play in scheduling a live stream, scheduling a call. So it's interesting trying to maneuver through both of those, similar to you, right? The intention of wanting to see the business grow, the community grow, that has roots in this concept of linear time. But I think one of the messages that I've been seeing reoccurringly surface is, you don't need to be thinking about those things. You don't need to be thinking about attaining or actualizing some particular outcome. Rather, focus all your awareness and energy into this now. So it's another tricky balance kind of thing, I think. but I also think more and more it's going to be about just now, let go of what it is you think you want for the future.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And, you know, I've struggled, and I talk about this strictly for the purpose of what you're talking about. You know, the last bout I had was yesterday. You know, I got to a point where I was like, you know, I got all this information about Soulogy and the network and what it's supposed to be. I've been talking about it for over a year. I've been trying to implement it, blow it up, implement it, blow it up. And I just sat down with Morgan and I said, you know, this is hurting my soul. She said, no, it's not. It's hurting your ego. And I was like, let me sit with that. And I went for a little walk, and it was kind of like what you're talking about. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Energetically, I can see the evidence of the impact of the work I'm involved with. I can see a lot of things that I won't go into, you know, but I mean, I can see it. And maybe I just need to take a deep breath and understand that I can no longer measure my level of achievement by the old human methods. You know, I can't do it. That doesn't serve me. I'm measuring myself and my worth based on metrics from the matrix. Now, the second part of it was kind of a message, like if I had to put it into words, was like, okay, um, act like there is no time. So, like, in other words, so what? You know, it's all the same thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you do it in the linear timeline today or 10 years from now. It's the same thing. So the pressure of time taken out and the acceptance of the energetic impact uh, brought me back down to I was going to say my knees, but I wasn't on my knees. Brought me back to balance and peace, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I can get up in the morning and have, you know, be very present for a worthy opportunity to have a conversation with Bryan, you know, and to focus right now, you know. So, and it's like I said at the top of the show, it's a lot of these things that are happening are weird. They're weird
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not familiar with them. You know, they're a little bit strange. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people I've noticed writing stuff, making posts, videos, talking about weird experiences, you know, which is a good thing. Like you said, you share this information and there's something comes with it. You know, there's something that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think also too, I'll just say this, I'll pass it back to you. I think the other thing is there's a there's a there is a mm, what's the right adjective? There is kind of an I don't know frequency to this new reality, this new dimension, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know.
In
I
a
don't.
positive light.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a yeah, not in a negative way, but in an
Mm-hmm.
unfamiliar way,
Mm-hmm.
which is possibly a bit uncomfortable way. But as all these things get more comfortable, as you get used to them, and I think that's a big part of what's happening.
Well, I do think that embracing that is going to bring for a freer feeling than the previous thinking that you knew.
Yeah,
So I think in embracing the uncertainty and the unknown, we are going to be met by a more free of a feeling than being in a consciousness of thinking that you know or wanting to know. So again, more it's going to be about coming into this present, trusting that, making the most of it, and acting on your highest excitement and expressing whatever it is that feels most natural and true, trusting that that will unfold into something greater, that trusting that all is well and always will be well in doing so. um, it will feel more peaceful, it will feel more simple if we boil it down to that, I think. And that's the
yeah,
experience that I've been having.
yeah. And that level of that frequency of anxiety, worry, whatever descriptions you want to give it, I think people can relate to that. It's becoming easier for us to turn it off. I'm not saying it's easy, you know what I mean? But it's becoming apparent to us that when we turn that off, you know, good things happen. You know, I mean, we obviously have been on this journey, Morgan and I. You know, we ended up down here and kind of hopped from one place to another place. Now we were gifted an RV in January, but we had to rent it after that. So we, you know, we were looking for a place, and she decided, you know, I need to get away. I need to get out of this RV. I'm gonna go see a friend for a few days in Kansas City. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That'll give me some breathing room. Let me see what I can do creatively. Well, before she even flew out, the day before, I came over to this little retreat center to do a show with a lady I know, and the owner looked at me and said, "I want you and your wife to plug in your RV here. I'm going to be gone for a few weeks, and you can broadcast from this location." So what I'm getting at is that it's like the integration or the connection or the puzzle pieces fitting together are closer and closer and closer. But had I been in an old frame of mind and walked in the door with a certain type of energy, say an off balance energy or an energy that was in shadow and projecting, or an agenda oriented energy, I probably would have never walked into that opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
because we're seeing each other's uh, illumination or lack thereof. We're seeing with more clarity. There's telepathy involved, into intuition, but there's also a community frequency that's growing and expanding, co-creation, you know, collaboration, where everybody shows up and nobody owns anything. Everybody shows up, and it's like a potluck. It's like an energetic potluck. Everybody brings what they've got, and you
Mm-hmm.
just share it, and you share it, and it's not bullshit, and it's not a cliche. It's actually happening. And so that's a clever example. I mean, maybe people might think that's, but this is what's happening, and it's happening everywhere, and it's happening to everyone. It's just a matter of, are we buying into it? Are we
Aware
writing
of
it
that.
off as a coincidence or an aberration? you know, but I think collectively the energies are producing more and more and more of this, and it just won't be denied. So, it's,
It can be.
yeah. So let me ask you before we get out of here. So
Cool.
I just want to tell everybody, if us, togetherweascend.com, right? Isn't that it?
Mm-hmm.
Togetherweascend.com. Bryan Henry, he's got a YouTube as well. I know you were doing some shows for a while. I don't know if you've been doing them. But even if people wanted to go back and watch some of your shows on YouTube or on Facebook, they're well worth watching. And so I just want to put that in there. And I don't know if you're up to anything that you want to talk about or announce or expand awareness
Uh,
of.
yeah, sure. I can throw in a few words of what's kind of been unfolding, being that I'm excited about it. So I'm excited to share. The initiative that we've been getting off the ground, it's gotten off the ground, but not in the way that it will be in the next, I would say, month or two, is the Ascend Academy. And what that's going to be is a space where people can come together to support one another,
Mm,
to both receive support, but then just be a part of tribe and community, um, that seeks to share space, celebrate life, and grow with one another. So what I've been working on is a process that, if upon enrollment into the academy, there is a 4-week process that everyone's going to be taken through, just kind of lay a little bit of a foundation for new members. And then probably the exciting part of it all for me is going to be, the coming together, is the group meetings that we do, all online right now. But what's blossoming in me is the vision to see this thing come to life in the tangible, create physical spaces. As of right now, again, it's a online program. So been working on that process, getting that in place. And then as soon as that process is in place, I'll be taking in new members to enroll into the program.
Right on. And that's on a Facebook group or what?
No,
Or,
so
oh,
we'll be doing the meetings on Zoom.
okay. So you're that's from your website.
Yeah. So everything
Together we ascend.com.
that would be that and the Facebook group. So I do have the Facebook group that I founded as well. That would be a decent place to check out. So that's
Right on.
if you go togetherweascend.com/community, you can find that.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put those links up, and I look forward to collaborate with you many more times, and especially in the flesh. You know, I mean, every time we get connect together, I feel further alignment, and I just want to wish you and your partner the best. And
I can't
God
wait
bless.
for that day, my man.
Yeah, it's coming. It's as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like going, oh, I'm starting to go into
Where are
that.
you at these days?
We're actually in St. Pete Beach, Florida, at the moment through the 31st of March. And then I don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know.
I think I mentioned this last time. There's a chance I might be coming down to Florida in the near future. So if it aligns,
yeah, you just let me know. Just stay in touch.
100%. But
Stay in touch.
until then, my friend, I have so much appreciation for you and what you're doing. Thank you for the opportunity to join you here and get a chance to share my perspective, because this is what lights me up, being in a space of conscious souls. Your show is amazing, man. I think I saw like 50, 60 people. I'm sure all beautiful souls bringing great energy. So, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. Big ass love and big ass dittos.
Big love, my friend.
See
Take
you
care.
later. Peace out, man. Thank you, Bryan.